Today we're moving back a few steps with the Camaro. And by that I mean we have to take the frame back out, but there is a reason why. If you can remember on my first YouTube video, we painted the subframe and the firewall. And there's nothing wrong with the subframe. In fact, I really like how it looks with the new paint, but as for the firewall, I really don't like the gloss black. So for our 67 Camaro, I think it would look best if we paint the firewall and the whole engine bay matte black. But that's not all. On my last video, we cut the back end of the car to install bigger tubs, but as you can see, they're still not installed yet. But I got really exciting news why it's still looking like this. So if you're new here, my name is Anayo, welcome to my channel, and let's get back to work. All right, welcome back guys. It's been a minute since I've recorded, but I'm excited to get back to work. So the reason why I really don't like the gloss black on the firewall, it's not really because it's gloss black. The main reason I don't like it is because whenever I chose this color for the firewall, I chose a jet black pearl, which I really don't mind the jet black. In fact, I really like how black it is, but what I don't like is that I chose pearl. So whenever you choose pearl, you can't really see on camera, but the pearl additive on the paint makes things look a little bit purplish depending how the light hits it. So that's the main reason why I don't like it, because whenever you move around and all that, you see that it has kind of a shimmery purplish that personally I don't like. So after doing a lot of research online, I decided to go with Hot Rod Black. Hot Rod Black is a paint that is the perfect mixture between gloss and matte. And I know you might be thinking, why are you taking the entire frame back out just to paint the firewall? Whenever we put the frame back on, I was a little silly and I did not change the mounts. The mounts I have on right now are the ones that came with the car, which I believe they're the stock ones. The stock ones are a rubber material and they're really not that efficient whenever you're putting a big engine on your car. So what I did, I went ahead and bought some polyurethane mounts. Polyurethane mounts are way stronger and more reliable than the stock rubber mounts. The reason why you really don't want to do rubber mounts is because one, they will crack over time, and two, they're way more flexible than these. Whenever you're running a bigger engine and you got a good amount of horsepower, you want something that will be stronger. And with this, it's not like it's fully stiff. You got the perfect mixture between flexibility and rigid, which is exactly what we want, because we don't want this to be like a brick. We want it to respond whenever we need it. So this is the way we're going. And if you can remember, whenever we installed the LS2 on the car, we used polyurethane mounts as well for the engine. So if we did it for the engine, why not go ahead and also put the polyurethane mounts on the frame? So that said, to make it easier to paint and be able to cover the whole thing with matte black paint, we're gonna go ahead and remove the frame. That way we can install the new mounts for the frame. And as well, one thing I haven't shown you is the heater box. For the 67 Camaro, the heater box is a massive old metal box that just goes in there, and it doesn't look right. As well, whenever you put a bigger engine, it doesn't really fit. So here's the plate. This is what we're gonna be using to cover up that hole. So yeah, I know there's gonna be a lot of mixed opinions about polyurethane mounts and rubber mounts. There's definitely pros and cons either or, but for me it comes down to wanting something that can handle the power and last a lot longer than rubber. Yeah, rubber mounts are definitely really strong and they actually come in a lot of new cars, but for me it all comes down about just setting it up, enjoy the drive, and not having to worry about cracking and mainly flexing issues. So yeah, polyurethane means a little stiffer, but for me, I think it's gonna be worth it. As you can see, my next step was pulling the rear end out so I can clean it and get it looking good. But after some research, I realized this was basically a waste of time. Back in the 67, these cars were built for the power they had from factory. But with an LS2, I'm making way more power and torque. So this 67 Camaros came with either a 10 bolt or a 12 bolt rear end, which unfortunately mine comes with a 10 bolt, which is the weaker one. I can tell somebody already tried to upgrade it, but it definitely doesn't change much. It doesn't make it really much stronger. With an LS2, white tires, and the extra traction, this rear end's definitely not gonna hold up, especially if I want to have some fun with it. So instead of trying to upgrade it and sinking more money into it, I'm going to swap it. For this swap, there are three solid options. First is the 4.9 inch. The 4.9 inch is one of the most popular and stronger rear ends out there for classic builds. Second is the 4.8 from a Ford Explorer, which is one of the most budget-friendly option and still very strong. And lastly is the Chevy 12 bolt, a proven choice that keeps everything in the Chevrolet family for those that love Chevy. So which one am I going to buy for this car? honestly, I think I'm going to have to betray Chevy for this one, and I'm going to move forward with the 49H. For the money's worth, the strength and the reliability I need for this car, the 49 is one of the strongest options out there. So yeah, I just decided to betray Chevy on this one and just move forward. What do you think? But you know, at the end of the day, maybe it wasn't just a waste of time. At least now the rear end is very clean, so I can go ahead and take some pictures, list it on Facebook Marketplace. That way I can sell it, get some money, and buy some more parts. Alright guys, so the car is back on the ground, and honestly, I'm pretty surprised on how high the car is sitting. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be sitting down way lower just because it doesn't have the shocks, but I guess the leaf springs have a lot of tension on them, so that's why it's looking like this. But it is very bouncy, so I'm glad we're not going with leaf springs, which that's one of the big news I have for this car. I honestly was thinking about it for a long time, and I'm going with full new suspension in the back. So I already ordered it, I'm just waiting for it to arrive, but I'm going with the Detroit Speed Quadralink setup, which comes with coilovers and all that stuff to make this back end very nice, very sporty. And not only that, but driving and everything is gonna be way safer, just because lift springs are really not the best thing. Yes, whenever you're going on straights and all that, it really doesn't matter, but you really want to have a car that you can have fun with, that you can drive in curves, do donuts, do whatever you want. So that's why I decided to go ahead and buy the coilover setup, and honestly, I'm very excited for that. So that said, we're upgrading the whole back end of the car. We're changing the axle assembly for the car, and then just upgrading the whole suspension. So that's one of the main reasons why I haven't put the mini tubs back in, because whenever we do the Quadralink setup, we basically have to cut a bit more of the metal and everything, and then whenever I get the differential, you basically weld the Quadralink setup to the differential itself. So that's why I've been waiting and holding off on this. That way we get everything right, and honestly, the back end of this car is just gonna be so nice to look at. So I'm really excited and hope you guys are too. So stay tuned, because it seems like we're basically upgrading everything on this car. Whenever I first got it, I honestly thought we were not gonna do much to it, but just because I put a big old engine on this car, now I need a lot of stuff and power in the back. That way you can hold to that torque. And honestly, I can't complain because it's gonna look nice. So let's keep moving. Okay, so now we're ready to take the whole subframe back out with the engine on, and I'm just gonna put 2 jacks in on each side. And as you can see, I already have a motorcycle jack. I'm using the motorcycle jack, that way I can hold the back end of the transmission. I'm just gonna put a little bit of cushioning, that way I don't scratch anything, and then just strap it down. And once I take the mounts out, I can hopefully just glide it out, and it should be good. So this is very DIY, as everything we're doing in this channel, but we're making sure everything is safe, and we're learning a lot. So let's keep moving. Alright, so the firewall now is ready to go. We just gotta scuff it up real quick. We don't even have to sand it down to metal, because all this is already new paint and stuff from that one time I did it. So I'm just gonna scuff it up real quick, and after that we should be able to shoot that matte black paint that I got. And let me show you real quick, guys. So once it's out of the car, you just see the sheer size of this thing, and this thing is just massive. But what I'm talking about right now is the mounts. So these are the old mounts that I was running on, and as you can see, it's just rubbery and it's really weak. And to compare, here's the new ones, and the new ones are just solid, can't even squish it. And they even have this little neck, that way you can insert it into the other one, and it should be way more solid than this little thing. So really happy to do this upgrade. So my next surprise, my next upgrade that I didn't think I would need, and honestly I did not know that you had to do this, because I didn't know that cars back in the day were not done very strong. And by that I mean that, as you could tell, I was able to get the front frame out of the car very simple, and yes, that was very easy to do so. But unfortunately, cars back in the day were not full frame, they were not connected, and for that you need frame connectors. As you see, frame connectors are a strong, sturdy piece of metal that will connect from the front side of the subframe to the back frame. That way everything's welded together. It'll be one solid piece, just like cars nowadays. It's just a full frame, front wheels, back wheels, everything's connected, and the top of the car basically just sits on the frame. That way, whenever you're trying to do a little donut or you're just driving aggressively, doing curves and all that, the body of the car will not twist on you and potentially crack windows and stuff because everything's going out of frame. And of course, there were a lot of frame connectors out there, and I just decided to go with Detroit Speed, the same brand I chose for the mini tubs. The reason I went with them is because it's the one that looks the slickest and it looks the strongest. Like I said, you're able to weld the front and the back together, which that's one thing I really like about that. And the second, and really the one that really drove my attention, is that whenever you put this frame connectors, you basically have to cut the floor pan of the car, and you also weld the floor to the connectors. So basically making everything one solid piece, even the shell of the car itself, which makes it really sturdy. And also one thing that I forgot to mention, that way whenever you cut that piece, basically this will come from the floor of the car a little bit higher. That way on the bottom of the car, the frame connector will be very slick and not that visible. There were a lot of frame connectors out there that were very bulky and they were very low to the ground. You would be able to just stand here and basically see it. And that's not very attractive to me. So that's why I decided to go with these. So now that I showed you that, we got frame connectors, we got a whole rear upgrade and frame mounts. So that's a lot of stuff that I didn't think I would need. So now that that's set, let's go ahead and just scuff up the front. So for those that still don't understand what frame connectors are, here's a really good image for reference. As you can see, the front frame of the car is connected to the back frame of the car, making it one solid piece, just like cars nowadays. Cars back in the day were really good at going in a straight line, but as soon as you start making more aggressive turns or just driving around curves, things start to twist. And depending how much force is being put on the chassis, that twisting can potentially crack windows or cause body panels to go out of alignment, which is definitely not ideal. So by installing frame connectors, you're welding everything together into one solid piece. That gives you two major benefits. First, you get more predictable handling, and second, you help protect your car from body flicks, misalignment panels, and many other problems. So that said, this is definitely a very important upgrade. One thing I didn't do last time I painted the firewall was taking care of all the holes in the metal. This time, since I want the firewall to look as nice as possible, I'll be filling in those holes. However, since I don't really have a welder and the holes are really not that big, I decided to use some JB Weld. JB Weld is basically a metal epoxy that once you mix it and apply it, it can handle extreme temperature and vibrations. Now, I know this isn't the most professional way to do it, but since these holes are not that big, I decided to go this route. But I'm definitely not using this to weld the frame connector, so don't worry about that. Okay guys, so I'm done with the body filler, and honestly I am way happier than whenever I did it the first time. Whenever I did it the first time, I had no experience with body filler at all. So I just filled a little bit and honestly it wasn't that good. But now, yes, it's not perfect still, but at least I know this whenever it's painted and all this is gonna look way more even. There's still gonna be a little bit of waves probably because the metal itself is not perfect, but it should look very nicely, especially with that matte paint. So now we just gotta cover this hole. So I got the plate right here. I already sanded with 80 grit. That way, whenever we shoot the epoxy primer, it should grab very well. So now we just gotta make sure that some of these holes line up. Whenever I got this car, some people told me that in order to have a really good paint job, it's not really about the paint job itself, but about the preparation. And boy, they were right. This was my first time going at it, and it's a very tedious process. So here's everything I did in summary. First, I went ahead and sprayed some epoxy primer over all the bare metal that you could see from all the sanding I did. Then I installed the plate and I secured it with a few bolts. Since we want this plate to be fully airtight, I added some seam sealer around the edges. This will keep the heat and noise from coming inside the cabin. Since I wanted the firewall to be as smooth as possible, I scuffed up the epoxy primer so I could apply a high build primer before painting. That way any sand scratches or minor imperfections would be filled in, giving me a much smoother surface for the final paint job. And once that's done, we scuffed up everything, that way we can get it ready to paint. Alright guys, so we got done with everything and I let it sit overnight, that way it fully dries, and here are the results. So honestly, I couldn't be happier. This is probably the look I was going for. It is way more shinier than I thought. I thought it was going to be more like a matte look. This is more like a satin gloss, but can't really complain. I think this, for the Firewall, a 67 Camaro, it's top notch. So everything's painted and it looks fantastic. And I'm also really excited that everything's finally painted because we can finally move with the engine. So now we got to change the mounts. So I got the upgraded mounts here, which are the polyurethane I was talking about. So now we're just going to move everything out of the way and put those mounts and basically align the engine with the car and finally see the car back together, because honestly I haven't even seen this car back together for a good amount of time. I mean, it's taken me forever just because of my schedule, but finally we should be able to put everything together and it's gonna look amazing. Alright guys, so here we are still trying to make everything fit. The reason why it's taking so long is just because there's so many panels, there's so many gaps, there's so many things that you gotta take into consideration, that way everything lines up. You want the front end to be as straight as possible, and to do that you gotta make sure first that the doors are good, they're in line with the bottom and they're in line with the top, and everything has to be exact and perfect. That way the front is perfect, because you don't want a car that has a crooked nose, so you want everything to be straightforward. So the reason why it's taking so long is because you got so many adjustable parts. So first of all, on the door jamb, you got this that's adjustable. You got the two door hinges at the top and the bottom. They're adjustable at this position, and on the car. So They're adjustable up, down, side to side, and basically outside and inside as well. So there's a lot of little tweaks that you gotta make sure that everything's good. That way everything aligns. So whenever I started doing this, then I was able to put the fender, but then I don't know how much I need to take the fender inside or outside. So I decided to put some little tape just to protect everything. But I don't know how big I need this gap to be if I don't have the other fender. So I went ahead and put the other door and the other fender. So same thing on this side. So yeah, that's why it's taking forever, but I mean, it's a learning progress, and yeah, we're doing it. So in the other hand, I'm really happy how the engine bay is looking. I really like that color, and with the engine inside, it just looks so nice. But I have another idea. So to make sure that everything's aligned, I gotta make sure that that piece, the cowl panel, has to be perfectly in the middle. So I wanna pick a center point and line it up with that part all the way to here. This one's also adjustable. It goes side to side. So if I have everything center, it should be able to line these up side to side perfectly in the middle. So the idea is basically using a laser. So I got a laser over here, and I basically want to, maybe this is a little bit too extra, but basically line it up over there and line it up all the way to the front. That way, once the laser's in place and everything's in line, I can start adjusting that part, I can start adjusting this part, and from there just adjust the sides to it. So I think that makes the most sense. Maybe I'm being a little extra, maybe I'm not, I don't know. I haven't really found stuff online that tells me exactly what to do. I found this laser, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it, and hopefully it works as I want it. So yeah, let's give it a go and see how it goes. So the laser's all the way on that center line. And basically here, it seems like it has to move this way. So about right there, I still gotta adjust it perfectly, but then it meets over there, which it might be really close. Gotta move it that way. And yep. Now that we got that adjusted, it's time to start adjusting everything else. This part took a very long time because I wanted to get the gaps as perfect as possible. The gap needs to be about 3/16 of an inch all the way around. Of course, these cars are old and gaps are not very consistent, so my goal is just to get everything as close as I can. And if an area still needs a little bit more work, you can always weld a little extra metal onto the edge of the panel and shape it until the gap is nice and even. That's actually a pretty common thing people do when restoring classic cars if they're trying to get those clean, consistent panel gaps. Also, a lot of the original hardware on this car was pretty rusty and wasn't in the best shape anymore, so I went ahead and bought a kit that comes with all the bolts, nuts, and spacers to adjust everything. When I installed the hood hinges, I noticed that no matter how much I adjusted them, the hood still wouldn't sit flush when it was closed. So I ended up drilling out the holes on the hinges a little bit bigger to give myself more room for adjustment. This ended up working perfectly, but of course, whenever I put the back on the car, this part actually took a lot of time and patience to get it right. It was a lot of adjusting, opening and closing the hood, and making small changes until I was finally able to get the hood sitting nice and flush with the rest of the body. And of course, once I was done, I just had to put the rest of the panels back on. Alright guys, the 67 Camaro is finally back together, and honestly I completely forgot how this car looked. It's probably been over a year since I took everything apart, and now that I can see everything together, it honestly looks fantastic, and I couldn't be happier than this. And yes, the car is back together, but there's still a bunch of stuff that I still need to do. A lot of the gaps, I'm happy with them, but as you can see on this side, if you come over here, The hood is a little bit higher on this side, so I still need to tweak a little bit on the hinges. That way it can go up and down and fix this side. For this side, I'm really happy how it's looking. The front end, it's looking good. On the sides, for the doors and everything, the gaps are really good, but they're not consistent. Mostly on both sides. On the bottom, it's pretty good. I'm about 3/16, but as you go up, it's probably about 1/4, which is not ideal. You want to have the gap as tight as possible, but this side, it's probably a little bit warped, so there's probably gonna need a little bit of metal work. Possibly weld a little bit on the side, that way we can have a very tight gap. And after that, just a lot of bondo just to fix everything. Of course, we want to reduce as much bondo as we can. That way we don't just paste the whole car with a lot of bondo. And of course, we cannot forget about the engine bay. The engine bay turned out to look fantastic. Now that everything's enclosed, it just looks great. The only thing that I need to do is paint the inside of the hood. The inside of the hood, I also want to paint it the same color, but I wanted to put it back on the car. That way I can start aligning everything, because as we know, you got to put the doors, you got to put all this, and then you got to put the hood. That way you know that everything's set and square. So that is one thing that I will have to take out. Once everything's aligned, I'll just take it out, paint it real quick, and put it back together. And once that's done, we're finally gonna be able to do body filler. The body filler part, it's definitely gonna take a long time, just because, yes, I've done a little bit, but not on a whole car. So it's gonna be very time consuming and very tedious. I know the body filler is gonna be a different type of time consuming, just because you definitely wanna make everything super smooth. But of course, we're not forgetting about the back end. So about the back end, I should be able to post on the next video. We're definitely gonna be welding that together. And as I mentioned, we're definitely changing the rear end of the car. So you can't really see it from here, but the rear end, we're going for a 4.9. I've heard a lot of good things about the 4.9, and honestly, I'm really excited. Yes, a lot of people have mentioned that you do not put any type of Ford parts into a Chevrolet, but you can't beat a 4.9. They're definitely really strong. So with the 4.9, I definitely need to narrow it, and they're a little bit pricey. So what we're gonna do, we're definitely just gonna buy a 4.9. I'm going to buy some wheels, which I probably already did, but I'm gonna show you that on the next video. I'm gonna set the wheels on each side and basically set the wheels with the tires and everything, and put the 4.9 in the middle. That way I know how much I need to cut. So that's how we're gonna do it. And lastly, I know I haven't been very consistent posting about my bike, but as you can see, I finally finished my bike. And honestly, this is another thing why I'm really excited on the car, just because once this is done with the new wheels and everything, it's gonna match really nicely, and this is just gonna be a fantastic duo. As you can see, did a lot of things on the front end, changed the front end from a sports bike. That way it looks way more girthy, way more aggressive. Put that new LED on it. I changed the exhaust on it just because the exhaust was really close to the tire, so I had to do a little bit of welding and all that stuff. On the seat, it's the same seat, but I just cut it up and put this new leather on it. That way it looks way more aggressive. And for the back end, this is completely new piece. I got that thing done. That way it looks really nice. It kind of looks like a sports bike end with the tiny LEDs, which are very bright, and the bike just looks fantastic as well. So there you go, guys. That being said, thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope you like it. If you made it to the end, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think so far of how much we've done on this car. I hope you guys are as excited as I am on how far we've made it, and also really excited on the future, just because the wheels, which I will reveal on the next video, they're really nice and they're gonna tie really well with the car. But on the next video, we should be able to finally weld the mini tubs on the car, get our hands on our rear end, and finally install the brand new suspension. That way we can start lowering this car, because with the big fat wheels and just a little bit lower, it's gonna look very nice and very aggressive. For the next one, we should be able to start moving a lot faster, just because this is finally done. So I should be able to start posting content way more regularly. I really want you guys to see this build finally done. Yes, it's gonna take a long time. On paper, we definitely do not have that many steps left, but it definitely takes time. But we're learning together and we're moving forward a step at a time. So like I said, thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope you like it, and we'll see you on the next one. Fantastic.